You think GTA villains are just bad guys? They're a loyalty stress test. Today, we rank 9 flavors of betrayal across games and years of chaos not by raw power levels, but by emotional and narrative impact. It's a chart of how much it hurts when trust slips. By the end, you'll know exactly why the ones closest to you hurt the most, and how screen time secretly predicts who's about to twist the knife. Welcome to the Betrayal Risk Chart, where a friendly smile is just pre-backstab stretching. So let's start at the bottom of the risk pool, where your cash takes the hit long before your heart does. Level 1 opens with the simplest kind of betrayal math: bodies who exist to be spent. Disposable henchmen. What's the betrayal risk when your villain is basically a savings account with guards? Level 1 is the safest place your trust will ever be. Not because they're honest, but because they're chores with a health bar. These are the antagonists you farm more than fear. They show up loud, flex hard, and end up as calendar events. You don't brace for heartbreak. You plan the route and count the payout. Enter El Rubio, who looks like a private island endgame boss until the 4th time you leave with his art, diamonds, and pride. He runs Cayo Perico like a fortress, but repetition turns steel into cardboard. The heist is built to be run, rerun, and optimized. He's a tropical ATM with a gold-plated PIN, and you've got the card. One week you swim in, next week you slip through the airstrip, then you stroll out in a guard outfit and a smile. New routes, new disguises, same island piggy bank. Fear fades, farming begins. The loop eats menace. You study patrols, mark cameras, and turn alarms into background noise. Even when the plan goes loud, the stakes feel like late fees, not funerals. That's the tell of Level 1. You measure time to profit, not time to grieve. He can throw helicopters, spotlights, and pet panthers for all you care. You already know where the keycards live. Here's where the screen time rule starts to whisper. The more often a villain cycles through your missions, the less they matter. Repetition breeds predictability, and predictability drains dread. In mission structure, it shows up as loops you can replay for cash and gear, while the real heavyweights steer cutscenes and turning points. They're not characters. They're workflows with sunglasses. You stop asking what they'll do and start asking how fast you can do it again. Wei Cheng proves the point from a different angle. He leads the Los Santos triads with cruel, bloodthirsty drive, pushing expansion and revenge. He shows up in key story beats, barks orders, and even factors into main path missions like Fresh Meat and The Third Way. But his impact still plays as mid-game antagonist energy, urgent in the moment, secondary in the memory. You remember the arc as business pressure and retaliation, not a personal shiv to the ribs. Loud arrival, narrow window, quiet exit. Level 1 plays like a tutorial mini-boss that keeps respawning with a fresh haircut. Different hat, same weak spot. You poke the glowing panel, the door opens, the loot sings. They never change the locks because their job is to be robbed, not remembered. The world needs a cash faucet, and these guys signed the plumbing waiver. You walk away richer, not raw. And when the uniform shows up, the costs stop being numbers. They start reading like policy. Now the rulebook shows up with a smile and a gun in the glove box. Corrupt authority figures. What hurts more than a thug with a gun? A cop with a pen and a grudge. Level 2 puts a badge on the knife and calls it policy. The uniform buys a pass in public, then bills you in private. You don't just dodge bullets here. You dodge paperwork, raids, and the threat of do this or else. Eddie Pulaski is the evil sidekick archetype in full swing. He's a corrupt LSPD officer with CRASH, rides shotgun with swagger, throws the badge like a brick, and treats the law as a dare. He's the voice that turns favor into blackmail and procedure into a punchline. Boss wants it done, you do it. And somehow, your fingerprints end up on the mess while he stays clean. His fall plays like moral punctuation. After threats, taunts, and errands that smelled like arson, his exit reads as a correction rather than a triumph. The point isn't spectacle. It's the relief of one less uniform using policy as a blade. Here's the twist of Level 2. Authority multiplies betrayal. Orders sound like laws. refusal sounds like a cell. The power isn't the gun, it's the clipboard that makes the gun legal. They weaponize process. They use raids, warrants, chain of command, and standard procedure as tools to corner you, then frame your compliance as choice. You feel smaller in these scenes, not because you lack firepower, but because the rulebook lives in their trunk. Jerry Martinez leans into that playbook. Rank gives him a switchboard to your life. He taps gear, missions, and protocol to box Victor Vance in. He sets him up, gets him kicked out, then tightens the screws with blackmail. Every request comes stamped with consequences, so the system itself turns crooked. It's not one bad apple. It's the barrel priced like a luxury good with your name on the invoice. Think of it like this. It's not just a stick-up. It's tax fraud with bullets. They don't take your cash on the street. They garnish your freedom through forms, use the badge to assign risk, then send you to do the dirty part. You push the mission, they push the narrative that you chose it. On the betrayal risk chart, the line climbs because your agency shrinks. When the rulebook belongs to your enemy, even a win feels borrowed. You return guns, cars, and intel, but you never get your leverage back. And that's why uniformed betrayal hits different. It hijacks the trust you place in institutions, not just the trust you place in people. Now, swap sirens for studio lights. The same playbook gets a PR team, a contract, and a camera. Personified. Corporate greed personified wears the badge without the badge. Level 3 swaps warrants for contracts and turns pressure into policy. Betrayal comes with a suit, a smile, and a signed NDA. You don't meet thugs here, you meet people who bring legal pads to a gunfight and still win. Steve Haines is the guidebook. He's a corrupt FIB agent who points cameras at himself and points you at problems. The camera loves him, so the public buys the version where he's a hero while you do the dirty work. He treats blackmail like a wellness plan. Do the mission, smile for the soundbite, and watch him rise on your stress. He uses media like body armor. When the red light turns on, he's the clean face of order. When it turns off, he's itemizing threats and making sure your name sits on every risk line. The cutaways frame him as the adult in the room. The calls after? Pure extortion with stage makeup. Then there's Devin Weston, who feels like a cartoon drawn with a checkbook. He files lawsuits like melee attacks. He bankrolls goons, buys silence, and hides greed behind buzzwords and private jets. IP law becomes a weapon, and hired muscle seals the deal. His last swim says more than any press release. Here's the trick with these suit-wearing snakes. They offload risk onto you and treat paper as shackles. A contract keeps you in the lane while their PR spins your skid marks into a charity drive. The cage is comfy, well-lit, and full of clauses. You can walk around, but you can't walk out. Avon Hertz takes it up a tier. Starts as a tech hype man, then scales greed to the sky. One day it's a pitch, next day it's an A. I plan that reads like a supervillain resume. In GTA Online's Doomsday Heist, that hype slides into a world domination arc, and you're stuck cleaning the fallout. He turns buzz into threat vectors. The stakes inflate from market share to endgame alarms, like a startup that pivoted into Doomsday. On the betrayal risk chart, the line spikes hard here. Money buys lawyers, airtime, and a storyline where you're the problem solver and also the problem. They script the scene, set the angle, and feed you lines that end with your name on the blame. The mini payoff is brutal and simple. Legal immunity and media clout make these snakes lethal. You can outdrive a convoy and outshoot a squad, but you can't outpunch a contract. You beat the mission and still owe the invoice. And that's why the next tier doesn't just spend you, it schedules you. When greed learns calendar math, betrayals stop being episodes and start reading like a season order. Level 4 swaps glossy PR for quiet control. The manipulative masterminds. What's worse than a backstab? 10 in a row that all feel planned months ago. Level 4 is where betrayal gets homework. You don't dodge a blade, you dodge a calendar. Every favor has a sequel. Every ally has an asterisk. It's chess, not arm wrestling, and the match started before you showed up. These villains win by making you move. They draw routes, seed rumors, and let you do the heavy lifting. You think you're picking missions. You're following arrows they placed 3 cutscenes ago. The trick isn't brute force, it's tempo. They set the beat. You dance yourself into the pin. Massimo Torini plays 3 families like a street band with 1 bad drummer. Leone, Forelli, Sindaco each hears a promise pitched to their fear. In Liberty City Stories, he's the Sicilian hand on the dimmer switch, lowering trust until everyone shoots at shadows. He sells safety to one, revenge to another, and just one more job to whoever's left. The city map turns into a rumor mill. You chase fires he lit to smoke you out. Each deal is a feint. Each feud, a fuse. He moves cash, whispers names, and lets egos do the arson. Then he steps back as shots ring out and alliances buckle. Checkmate doesn't look clever. It looks inevitable. The Leones stay standing because everyone else spent ammo on ghosts. Dimitri Rascalov writes the syllabus for betrayal. First a handshake, then a double cross, then a retake with higher stakes. He is GTA 4's calm storm. Calls that sound civil. Traps that land hard. He partners when it pays, flips when it profits, ropes in old grudges like Ray Bulgarin, and keeps you choosing between bad and worse. Kidnaps, negotiations, shifting drop points. Each one drains your options, not just your health. That's the real credential. Pattern, not impulse. A PhD in backstabbing means he loops the same 3 plays until you start predicting the wrong move. You show with muscle, he shows with structure. By the time the guns come out, your roots are bad, your intel is stale, and your ally list got shorter by 3. Jimmy Pecorino wants king energy with pawn resources. He waves a crown he can't afford and spends favors like credit. As boss of the Pecorino crime family, he aches for commission. Respect the other Liberty City outfits won't give. That hunger powers the worst calls. His pitch sounds big. His reach comes up small. And the stumble turns into a faceplant that drags you with it. The endgame plays as desperation, not destiny. On the betrayal risk chart, masterminds don't just drain cash. They rewrite the map. Alliances shift, safe houses vanish, endings split. Your win state moves while you chase it. And when plans start bending, nerves fray. The next level isn't about clever moves. It's about fear running the board. Power starts checking the locks every hour. The paranoid power players. What happens when the king thinks every handshake is a gun? Level 5 lives there, where a nod feels like a trap, and a toast tastes like poison. You don't plan around rivals, you plan around your boss's mood swings. Money stacks high, but trust melts fast. This is wealth melting trust cash, ego, and coke-fueled logic. The penthouse turns into a panic room. Every phone call sounds like a setup. You can hear the ice crack under the yacht shoes. When power feels rented, every glance looks like an eviction notice. Ricardo Diaz fits the mold. A volatile drug lord in Vice City whose mansion might as well be a bunker. He runs hot, reads threats in shadows, and fires first to feel safe. Allegiances shift fast around him because his temper makes everyone temporary. One day it's business, next day it's bullets through the blinds. Loyalty evaporates faster than a Miami rain shower in July. Paranoia drives messy moves. You get spray and pray orders that leave cars on fire, lieutenants mad, and whole neighborhoods needing a pressure wash. Cleanup missions stack. You're patching holes in an ego, not a plan. The longer it runs, the shorter your fuse gets. Then there's Sonny Forelli, who manages from afar like a landlord who only calls to raise the rent. Distance plus threats. He sends you south, keeps the leash long, and tightens it with reminders, demands, and a bill with interest. When the money doesn't boomerang back, he tries to seize the whole shop through intimidation and extortion. His long arm plays as control theater, high volume, low trust. Here's the insight. The fear of losing power accelerates betrayal. Relationships become invoices. Every favor is logged. Every laugh turns into leverage. If the numbers don't line up, the gun does. The scoreboard matters more than the bond. Lance Vance's name rhymes, but that can't save him. Greed and bruised pride crack the friendship at the story's core. He wants equal billing without equal risk. talks about being undervalued, then sells the partnership when the pressure climbs. In the final run, he flips on Tommy and walks into the last room on the wrong side of the line. A duo turns into a duel. This is where the betrayal risk chart crosses into emotional cost. It's not just cash and cars, it's the gut punch that hits when a partner switches teams mid-play. You don't just lose loot, you lose the playlist you built together. Mini payoff. These disasters don't just fall, they make you push. You topple them while they flail, and it still feels like they jumped. Level 5 is loud wealth, thin skin, and a short fuse, and it sets the stage for a betrayal so iconic, a single fast food order became the logo for it. San Andreas' unholy trinity takes the theory and makes it personal. The cracks aren't abstract. They live on your block, wear your colors, and call you by name. One order at the drive-thru became the face of betrayal. It's a throwaway line turned brand logo for treachery, stamped on clips, soundboards, and your brain. Level 6 starts there, with the menu read like scripture and a friendship sliding off the tray. You hear it once, then forever. This level turns friendship into shrapnel. Grove Street's core splits on camera and then mutates into memes you can hear without audio. You don't watch a twist. You watch a slow slide you can't stop, where a smile hides the invoice and the price is trust. It's personal, public, and permanent. Big Smoke's heel turn is cultural canon. The two number 9s line outlives the mission because it marks the exact second the vibe breaks. The joke sticks because the truth hurts. He talks like a coach, moves like a CEO, and points you at tasks that profit someone else. The punchline never stops paying out. He doesn't just switch sides. He builds a staircase to the door. He aligns with the ballast and dirty cops, then wraps it in fast food and big promises. It's ambition in a paper bag. Supply chains, safe houses, and street politics all tilt his way while he sells it as growth. He eats while the block starves. Ryder's part lands smaller and meaner. No grand plan. Just cowardice dressed as savvy. He snipes from the back seat, taps out when heat shows up, and turns that last inch of doubt into a mile of damage. He links up with Big Smoke and their allies like the Ballas, Loco Syndicate, and Vagos when it suits him, trading brotherhood for cover. It's the petty brand of betrayal that stings because you almost expected it. Officer Tenpenny takes the chaos and turns it into a system. He doesn't just bend rules, he writes new ones and files them under normal. As a corrupt LSPD officer with CRASH, he keeps CJ boxed in with blackmail, do the dirty work, or get buried by the badge. When he burns, the city doesn't cheer the flames. It exhales. The fall feels like a verdict read out loud, with sirens as applause. It's a three-pronged betrayal gang, friend, state closing like a vice. You feel it crush inward from every side at once. Your map shows streets, but your compass shows nowhere safe. That's the trick. No single stab, just steady pressure until movement hurts. On the betrayal risk chart, this is the peak in scope. Every circle around CJ gets poisoned. The garage, the block, the partner calls tainted. You start second-guessing rides, jokes, and the weight of a pause before a plan. Mini payoff. San Andreas proves the closer the bond, the louder the break. And the pattern wasn't born here, it was perfected. The blueprint was drafted elsewhere, under rotor wash and flashing lights. The original gangsters step in with the first lesson. The earliest betrayals set the rules you still play by. The blueprint for betrayal starts with a heist and a helicopter. You hear the glass, see the muzzle flash, and then the sky steals the scene. Level 7 plants the seed right there. A clean score turns into a chase, and the trust you brought to work gets left on the sidewalk. This is GTA 3's DNA loyalty as a ladder that snaps when you climb it. You play the job, catch the ride, and think the crew is solid. But the rungs creak, and by the time you look down, you're falling. The game teaches that upward mobility comes with hidden nails. You grip tight and still bleed. Salvatore Leone, in Grand Theft Auto 3, keeps the tempo steady until power wobbles. He offers dinners, jobs, and a smile that reads like approval. Then a rumor blows in, and your name slides onto a menu you didn't want to read. His trust lasts as long as the chair under him feels sturdy. The second it tilts, loyalty becomes a liability, and you're sent to drive a car that's been set up to explode. In this city, respect is a fuse. That's the lesson baked into the missions. Conditional loyalty. Respect is rented, not owned. You pay up with errands, favors, and silence. Miss one payment and the collection call comes with a car bomb or a setup that proves you were only ever a tool on loan. Catalina shoots the game open. Bank betrayal, no warning. She turns the cut into a cliff and climbs without you. The pivot to Colombian cartel muscle isn't a twist, it's a mission statement. Helicopter exit and a cold goodbye. The story doesn't hide the knife. It shows you the handle and dares you to grab it again later. From there, the unhinged ex becomes a franchise archetype. Romance isn't a bonus, it's a risk factor. Love scenes set up ambushes, and sweet talk coats the ramp to a double cross. You start to weigh affection like ammo. Cute is a warning label. It's a soap opera with body armor. Jealousy, power, and petty payback play out with car bombs, silenced pistols, and farewell tours on rooftops. The melodrama doesn't slow the gameplay. It adds a fuse to every cutscene and lets relationships drive the next explosion. So the betrayal risk chart links personal history to world shifts. Dates become detonators. A past favor becomes a current target. You walk into a mission and the city's mood changes because of who you kissed, who you ditched, and who holds your spare keys. Mini payoff. GTA 3 writes the rule. If they loved you, they'll use you. The bed is a briefing room. The hug is a frisk. And some enemies don't clock out when the credits roll, they keep the tab open for later. The serial betrayers. Some names don't fade when the city changes. They follow you. The serial betrayers. What if the villain outlasts your save file? Level 8 lives on that dread. You think you closed the book, but the bookmark keeps moving. Credits roll, and the threat stays on your couch like a bad roommate who won't leave. Persistence becomes the weapon, not stronger guns. Longer memory. This tier stretches grudges across titles. A feud that starts with a deal gone sour turns into a career. You move cities, change crews, swap cars, and the same name shows up in your mission, brief like a watermark. You don't beat them, you renew them. Ray Bulgarin is the poster child. He rides the border between myth and migraine. For Nico, it's old debt and a shadow over every score. For Luis, it's rich man menace with muscle on speed dial. Money gives him reach. Fear gives him time. And the memory? Tight as steel wire. He doesn't rant, he recurs. He holds grudges longer than student loans, and he makes sure interest applies to everyone involved. That cross-game presence changes how revenge feels. It stops being an episode and turns into a season. One cliffhanger bleeds into the next. You don't get the payoff right after the boss fight. You get part 2, then part 3, and each part twists the knife a little deeper. The arc isn't linear. It loops until you learn the lesson the hard way. The franchise loves stitching cities with nemeses. Threads run from one story to the next, and your past keeps calling collect. You hang up, and it calls again. Different number, same voice. That's the trick. The world is big, the grudge is bigger, and you're the one who keeps picking up. Billy Gray proves Brotherhood has an expiration date. The patch promises forever, but the fine print says until power shows up. He comes back talking peace, reignites wars, and secretly parks heroin for a private score. Loyalty turns into a coupon he redeems for short-term gain while the club takes the long-term hit. The lost MC breaks under his vanity, and the bill lands years later. His end at Johnny Klebitz's hands closes the tab, but the damage lingers in the memory of what the Brotherhood used to be. Think of level 8 like debt collection for betrayal. Interest compounds with time. You dodge one payment, and the balance grows. New city, same bill. It shows up with a smile and a squad, and you pay with blood, favors, or both. You don't erase it. You refinance it with pain. So the betrayal risk chart starts measuring half-life here. Some villains decay fast. These don't. They teach you that repetition is a tactic, that endurance is a blade, and that senior voices can hide the sharpest edges. Which makes the next tier even nastier when the wisdom you trust starts drafting the ambush. The false OGs. Level 9 turns respect into bait. The false OGs. What if the mentor's lesson is a trap? Level 9 asks you to listen to the oldest voice in the room and then check your wallet, your crew, and your exit route. The setup looks safe, the tone sounds wise, but the syllabus ends with you on cleanup duty and someone else counting cash. This is the crown of the betrayal risk chart seniority as camouflage for greed. The gray hair sells calm. The stories sell grit. You hear back in my day and your guard drops. That's the misdirection. Experience becomes a mask, and behind it sits a calculator and a list of names that rhyme with Fall Guy. Stretch lives in that space. He plays the older family's OG, writes the script, and casts himself as coach while he pockets the win. He sets jobs that look like steps up, then bills Franklin and Lamar when the floor gives way. He never pays at the door. He pays with your time, your bullets, and your face on the beef. His pattern is the tell. Stretch doesn't burn you once, he cycles you. The setups come in waves, and the mark is almost always the same pair. Franklin and Lamar get sent into traps dressed as opportunities. He picks rival targets that bounce heat back at you and heat off of him. Then he stands far enough away to look uninvolved when the sirens show. Each handoff reads like mentorship. Each outcome reads like a write-off. He weaponizes respect culture like it's a perk. Orders arrive wrapped in fatherly tone. The phrasing hits like wisdom, short, firm, final. But the map points to ambushes, not growth. When the dust clears, the lesson reads, "You studied the wrong chapter, and the proctor was grading his own curve." Here's the insight you don't get from the pep talk. Seniority increases access to your trust, not your safety. The closer the circle, the cleaner the shot. That handshake at the top of the set? It's also a pat-down for your blind spots. He doesn't need to shout to move you. He just needs you to think saying no breaks the code. Think of it like a loyalty pyramid where the top skims belief, not money. Every nod you give flows up. Every risk you take plugs a leak above you. By the time you see the angle, your buy-in is sunk cost, and the refund policy is a gun. And the price isn't just cash. The emotional cost beats the financial. This is legacy damage. It warps how Franklin weighs orders and how Lamar hears praise because the same voice keeps sending them back into the same fire. You start marking your own friends as potential exits in case the room tilts again. Mini payoff. Stretch proves gang age isn't trust, it's opportunity. The resume doesn't cover intent, it covers access. Which is why the final takeaway isn't about rank or legend, it's about how you value loyalty when every nod might be a bill. So here's where it lands. Conclusion. Loyalty is the scarcest loot in GTA. The hierarchy proves it. The higher the bond, the harder the stab. That's the math this world runs on. Friends, bosses, mentors. Each one raises your risk while lowering your guard. The betrayal. Risk chart isn't theory, it's field notes. Next time someone smiles and offers help, check the clock. Screen time predicts pain. The longer they linger, the sharper the twist. So read the room, scan the contract, and keep an exit. Trust less. Survive longer. Enjoy the chaos. And when the knife comes, turn first. Then walk away with your cut.